Yes.
Okay, it's 7:02. Let's get this meeting started. Roll call, please.
Vianney?
Here.
Passanello?
Here.
Hader?
Here.
Morrison?
Here.
Schneider?
Here.
Ramirez?
Here.
Lee?
Here.
Okay, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to hit the invocation, and once this meeting's been blessed, we'll go on to other things. So for the invocation, we have Reverend Donald Meeks here from Greenwich Presbyterian Church. Welcome.
Thank you. Always good to be with you all. Appreciate your work. I'll wait for the microphone. That's right. It's all green. We're ready to go. That's it. We good? I think it's an honor to offer prayer for you as you do your work tonight, and so appreciate your service to the town. Let's pray. Gracious God, we come before you this night with thanksgiving for the political and economic and spiritual freedoms that we enjoy every day. We are humbled by your daily care and provision for our lives and our community and nation. We pray today for the brave men and women who serve to protect and defend our nation in the armed forces, and for those who serve to protect this community in law enforcement, fire and rescue as first responders. Lord, be close to all who find themselves in harm's way this day. As this body convenes to serve the citizens, businesses, and neighborhoods in Haymarket, we ask for your kind providence to be manifest through the discussions and decisions set before your servants in this meeting. May each council person be guided by a spirit of wisdom, humility, and justice. May they exercise faithful stewardship of the responsibilities and resources entrusted to their care. Watch over their families as they fulfill this duty, and protect each from discouragement, pride, and weariness of heart. Strengthen the town council and town residents that, working together, your will may be done on this portion of your earth as it is in heaven. We ask this in the strength of your loving name. Amen.
Thank you. Now, if the council doesn't object, we have a new police officer that is employed, and Chief would like to recognize him.
Yes,
We
if
could put
Mike,
that in the
you could
agenda.
step forward. This is Officer Mike Danielson. Mike served with Winchester Police Department for 27 years and retired there as a captain a short time ago. I had the opportunity to work with Mike several years in the Drug Task Force. We were co-leaders of our team. Mike's high speed, good guy, good cop, lots of knowledge, and he'll bring a lot to the department. He's a new hire for a part-time employee here. So I just wanted to introduce him to council and let you see his face.
All right.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item, Business Spotlight. We have Alexandra Zubowitz. After a few tongue stumbles, from Thrive Med Spa.
Yes, right next door. Thank you. So my name's Alexandra Zubowitz. I'm a general bariatric surgeon with UVA Health at Haymarket. And kind of as my side gig, decided to open up a medical spa and wellness center. So part of that stemmed from after the weight loss surgery, a lot of issues with excess skin and body dysmorphia. So there's not a whole lot to do from a cosmetic standpoint. So we implemented some of the newest techniques for, it's called radio frequency assisted liposuction. It's all office-based, as well as the general fillers, Botox, hair and makeup. We're starting IV therapy, some personalized yoga sessions, and eventually we're going to be also doing some educational seminars. I'm partnering with another local business. So kind of the full gamut of everything.
Awesome.
Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody have any?
Just your
Questions?
grand opening is,
Oh, yes, and so, yeah, next month we'll be doing the grand open, well, I mean, we've been open, but the ribbon cutting ceremony, and we'll have, drinks and appetizers afterwards. Everyone's invited. Hope to see you there.
Awesome.
thanks for investing in the town.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Welcome.
they mentioned, okay, so I'll leave brochures if.
Does your helper have anything to say? No? Okay.
What a good helper.
Ooh, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And for our community spotlight, we have the Gainesville Haymarket Rotary for representing the Flags for Heroes event.
Thank you.
Guess you're going
I
to
don't
be.
see anyone here
Yeah.
for it. I think just a general reminder that the event is this coming weekend. It'll be at the town park. They will start putting in the flags here, I do believe, tomorrow. So be sure to swing by, check it out. I know that Chief will be there this weekend, as well as Mayor. I know Chief will be reading out names of those heroes, and then Mayor, I think, is going to be saying a few words along with the other local dignitaries. So if you guys can make it, I know the Rotary Club would greatly appreciate that.
And it starts at 5 in the afternoon or something?
5 p.m.?
Yes.
5 p.m., yes.
All right. Well, I guess we'll move on to citizens' time then. Anybody in the audience have any comments they want to make for citizens' time?
It's okay, come on up.
It's all right. No?
We do have a scout in the audience tonight for one of his prerequisites for summer camp from Troop 924.
Welcome.
Needed to know that. Could have had him do the pledge.
Should have had you do the pledge.
Yeah.
Ah, maybe next time.
So, Alex, do we have any emails for citizens' time? Okay, we'll move on then to the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull any of the reports?
I did have a question I wanted to ask at the work session. Unfortunately, I missed it. I do have a quick question for liaison committee or liaison, finance liaison, if we could pull that off.
Okay. Mary?
Could we pull the town admin, police report, and attorney report? So that's 1, 3, and 5 for me, please.
Okay.
1, 3, and 5.
Anyone down this line?
Town attorney, I think maybe she'll discuss the same.
Okay. So we'll move on to reports, and then we'll close everything up at once.
Oh,
that sound
is that how
good?
you wanna do it? Okay.
I mean, normally we do it in a half and half, but since we're pulling 4 reports, well, 5. I want to pull the business liaison report as well.
Okay.
So we'll start with the town administration report. Who has questions?
I do. So I do first want to start with that I love at the very bottom on page 21 of the packet, you have added new businesses that have become licensed and recently opened or will be opening, and along with their opening date. I love that, so I deeply appreciate you adding that on so that we can share that with our constituents and that they can see it when they look through this online. So thank you for doing that. I do want to ask about the sidewalk update. I think I saw that somewhere soon-ish there was supposed to be some sort of completion. I'd just like an update, please.
First, I have to say thank you to Alex, who is doing all of our business licenses. So she's getting that information in the report for you guys. Anytime you have new business questions, feel free to reach out to her or any of us, but we'll direct you to Alex. She's on top of it and squaring away our ribbon cuttings with Rachel, our event coordinator. So she's putting in that hard work. For the RFP sidewalk update, we met on, I do believe it was Wednesday of last week, with the engineering group, who is our consultant who's drafting our site plan. We are at the 90% completion mark for that site plan, and we're here going to hit 100% completion in the next couple weeks. We have to turn around a couple items to them. We need to get them over a draft stormwater agreement document, and then we needed to answer some general housekeeping questions. We have, I believe, everything but one document ready to send back to them, and they've already received it, I believe, as of Friday from Thomas. So we'll be following up this week to get the last document drafted over to them, and then they will be submitting the 100% plans. What they've recommended is that they're going to submit the first submission to ourselves as well as VDOT, who is going to be doing the outside agency review. They have also recommended, because we would like to be moving quickly on this, that we consider doing a bid package while we're in the initial review of the plan. Because our engineer, myself, and Thomas have been involved with this from the get-go, it's one of our projects that we're working on. We've had close eyes on it. We know we'll have some VDOT comments come back on it, but we are prepared for that. So I will be bringing, probably at our work session, some more information regarding putting out a bid package ahead of time, so we could go ahead and keep the ball rolling for this.
And that's this month's work session.
That's correct. So
Okay, thank you.
that date, I believe, is June
26th?
26th.
Okay. Perfect. I think those were really the only main call-outs that I had. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments on the admin report?
I figure since it's open, I have a couple of comments real quick. First of all, farmer's market, 2 thumbs up. And it looks like it's doing really, really well. In the newsletter that I guess you'll be drafting a third quarter, I'm not sure the progress of that right now, but I think it would be a great idea to introduce some of our new staff members in the newsletter. I know you're always looking for ideas, so that would be a thought, and some of our new officers.
I'll recommend it to Alexandra.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on the admin report? Okay, my comments, already hit the sidewalk. Communications plan, I know there's kind of a overlaps. Any newer information than what we got on the details here?
So Tracy Lynn and I briefly met about that last week. She has the draft to review, and we'll be setting up a time probably this week to meet.
Okay,
Actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
yes.
There is one more thing. I just saw my note about
Okay.
the maintenance department.
Yes.
Now that that position is full-time, maybe he can expand a little bit on what he's working on.
Yes, so-
Because we know he's doing a lot.
Yes, in next month's report, you'll see on the maintenance department section, that will be completely fleshed out. It'll have all the different projects and tasks that he's been working on. I can already report back to you that we have done our streetlight inventory. It did take the better part of a day and a half to 2 days for him to complete last week, but he is working away on that as well. So we'll have that all fleshed out in next month's report.
Thank you.
Okay. My next item, stormwater assessment program. Any movement by Prince William County on that?
Yes, to a degree. So the monies have been awarded tonight on your agenda. Item number 5 under our regular agenda items, you'll have the stormwater assessment grant technical correction request. So that is a letter that we are going to be requesting the EPA change the name on the grant funding from the town of Haymarket to Prince William County. We've worked with the county on this matter. They originally applied for the grant for us, and they're going to be helping us to facilitate. We're providing the match of the money, so the 20% match. So when everything came through, when the grant got approved, they put our name on it because this is where the project is going to be located at. But they said it's very standard to do the name change if you have another jurisdiction or agency helping you out with the completion of the assessment. So that's what we're asking for tonight. Once we put that in, that then goes to the Appropriations Committee. And I believe when we spoke, it was I think a monthly meeting, so I think we'll get in on the July monthly meeting, and then we'll have that monies awarded. So that's where we stand.
Okay. Social media website. I did a look at it this morning. And we definitely got a lot of stale information in there, especially when it comes to our staffing. A lot of the new hires are not even listed on there yet. So could you at least try and target that?
Yes, we will try our best to get that information updated.
And new business was hit. That was a good take on that one, too. Okay, that's all I have. Last chance for admin report. Okay, we'll move on to the chief of police report.
Hi, it's me again.
Hey there, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
In the dream.
Good. I see you guys have been very busy.
Yes.
Very, very busy. Thank you guys for your hard work. I like that you have added your traffic summons descriptions, the code section, along with what they're called. I do kind of want to highlight the fact that failure to obey a highway sign comes with fewer points deducted on your, or tallied up on your license.
Correct.
So if you just so happen to be speeding through town, that's a nicer way to kind of reprimand you, if you will. So I appreciate that the discretion is being used while also enforcing the pressure of follow the speed around here, because we have a lot of pedestrians. So I do want to draw attention to that I see the discretion and I appreciate it.
Yes.
I'm sure that our residents also appreciate that.
Yeah, we want to keep it a pedestrian-friendly town, but also use that discretion to make sure that we're providing the education, not more of a penal
Right.
side.
Exactly. Thank you. I do want to highlight that I appreciate you meeting with Chief Newsham. I know that we had briefly talked about that, I believe, last month or
Last
something.
month, yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I appreciate you doing that. I love that Officer Chan had an opportunity to attend a school, leadership school. That's awesome. And wow, 126 pounds of prescription drugs were received or collected at the Drug Take Back Initiative.
Yes, ma'am, at our site that we partner with Prince William at UVA Health.
That's awesome that you got that out of our community.
Yeah,
So,
we try to keep doing that. We do that at least twice a year. So.
That's awesome. And then I do appreciate you guys taking the initiative along with the town manager and checking in with VDOT about the traffic issues. I'm pretty sure everyone here knows that traffic is picking up around here and it's terribly difficult to turn left out of our neighborhoods.
For sure. And it will only get worse, but we're trying to do our best. The town manager and I have coordinated with VDOT on some areas that we feel is confusing for our travelers. And so we're working with them to get through those and and make it the best that we can. And of course, we're obviously down there, but we're providing education. We're not actively writing tickets for violations in that area since it's new. We're basically just educating people on what they need to do, where they need to go, and the right way to travel.
Perfect. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Some final things. I'm super duper excited about June 15th.
Yes.
So a water balloon battle, as we like to call it. All of council, staff, PD, please come. It's at Longstreet Commons. We anticipate the bus dropping everyone off around like 12:45. If you want to show up around like 12:30, we'll get you supplied with some water balloons, although I think you're bringing your own.
We're bringing in our own.
That's right. And so what time will your ice cream social be that evening?
4 o'clock.
4 p.m.
At the park with Swirlies providing the ice cream.
4 p.m., Community Park with Swirlies. I love it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Chief.
It was well received last year. I think she advised, the owners advised that they had provided over 400 ice cream cones.
Wow.
Of course, I think Councilman Morris ate about 10 of those, so 391-ish. So yeah, it was very well received, and we repeated it, and luckily Swirlies was able to jump right back on board with us and help us out.
Wonderful. Well, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah, anybody else?
Anybody else? Go ahead, comments?
Chief, the speed cameras, not cameras, but our signs, I understood they provide some type of data. Are you grabbing that?
Yes.
And what does it show us?
Yes, well, it will show us our high points of time, like if there's a specific time of day that there's speeding violations or people exceeding the speed limit. It gives us our average, our daily average, our weekly average of what the speed limits are. And that way we can better target when is a good time to work Washington Street to slow the faster travelers down. We've recently put Officer Chan in charge of that to collect that data and keep us appraised on it through monthly reporting to see what we needed to do and where we needed to do it at.
Thank you.
Also, I might want to add a note onto that. I've been working with the town manager to move the sign that's down here by Piedmont because it just doesn't get enough sunlight. And so it's very intermittent, especially if we have several rain days or during the winter if we have several cloudy days. So we're working to move that closer down towards the sheets a little bit and have it on a good freestanding pole where it can get the sunlight it needs to recharge and make sure we're getting good readings from there. Just a little tidbit on that. But we can't just willy-nilly move the sign. We got to go through the process and make sure VDOT's involved.
Joe?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mary. There were some good points there. In reference to the traffic summons, is that something we can put into a graph as well?
Yes, we can graph that.
Take a look at that and see.
We can absolutely graph that. That's not a problem. I can graph it by the main statutes. I mean, there's an infinite number of statutes, quite frankly. So I'm sure that you don't really want to catch that one summons that's written for that one minute detail that happens only once a year. But the meat and potatoes, basically, of our code sections that we write, which is what you see in front of you now. I'd be glad to graph those and not get too far into the weeds.
Yeah.
But still stat the others so you know that they're there. But the meat and potatoes, we can graph those and keep a track of that.
Yeah, that would be great to be able to do that. And when you look at the speed signs out there that were installed being solar, and I think we've talked about this in finance as well, it'd be interesting to see if you can get some power to it.
Yes,
and then you wouldn't have to worry about
that's
it.
one of the things that the town manager and myself is working towards. Long course, you know that there's a bigger plan with our crosswalks because we want to make sure that we're protecting our pedestrians as best we can moving forward. And I actually had a conversation with Councilwoman Ramirez about that one concern of hers specifically about that. So that's going to be incorporated into that to where we don't really have to worry about the solar side and the replacement of worn batteries because of the constant solar charge, recharge. So yeah, it's all on the table, but we're moving along at a phased implementation type program towards just not all at one time that we have to pay for these things. And then I'm also kind of hoping, not to get too far down the road, that we might be able to do something next year on the DMV side that might associate with that when it comes to grants. But like I said, I want to get through this first year on that side where we're at on the DMV grant, providing that we're approved, and then move forward after that. So there might be some alternative funding sources out there that would not be encumbered upon the taxpayer here in Haymarket.
Right. And speaking of grants, do you want to just mention a couple of the grants that we talked about in finance?
Correct. Of course, we got our 2022 Lowly grant. We applied for that and we received it, which is not a huge amount. But I also applied for an ARPA grant through DCJS, which was approved in the amount of $12,000. So we're moving forward, and I know that the mayor spoke to me when I first came here that grants was one of those things. So we're keeping our eyes open, and any grants that's available, we're targeting and trying to acquire those as we go along.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anybody else with questions?
So Chief, I noticed the uptick in the number of dispatch calls. So if I take a look at last year, it was about 31 calls, and this time we're at 65.
Correct.
What are the reasons why there is such an uptick in your?
Business is booming.
Okay.
This is something else that I talked to Councilwoman Ramirez about, is watching our calls for service. Obviously, we've had some more residents move in since the last year. We've had a lot more activity. I think that part of it is just it's going to be that uptick in business for us. And I think that we haven't seen the effect at all of what we're going to have here to the west when these businesses and the Crossroads project is finished, or at least near completion. I know that when I was speaking to Councilwoman Ramirez, I was hoping that this was an anomaly, but you can see the 3-month trend's been pretty consistent compared to where we're at last year. I still think that we need at least 3 more months of data to start to concern ourselves with that. But we are able to maintain currently with our current staffing. But I think that once the Crossroads area opens up, that we're going to be looking at an uptick there as well, with everything that comes along with that, with opening of the businesses and a mixed-use parcel such as that. So there's no one specific thing. We don't have any criminal element that's moved into the area that has this uptick. As you know, a lot of our crime tends to be the transient behaviors, and that pattern is not going to discontinue. That will be the same pattern, but we will continue to do our best to keep those calls for service and make sure that they're attended to properly and quickly and swiftly. But there's no concern that, for your question to the public, that there's any criminal element that's moved in that's causing this uptick in calls for service.
Okay. And I also see an uptick in the officer-initiated calls, and if I'm not mistaken, that's due to the proactive nature of our officers, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Correct, exactly. But over the last year, we've initiated a lot of training, and not just training outside, but in-house training to make officers more aware of what they're seeing and be more cognizant of their surroundings. And of course, if you get a general uptick in business, as we see in the calls for service, you're going to get a general uptick in calls for service for the officer-initiated calls. So one will usually coincide with the other. But our guys are going to remain proactive and try to keep their thumb on it as best as they can.
Okay, great. And one final question. Is there any correlation between the number of dispatch calls and the out-of-town activity?
No, there's not really a correlation, but I will say this, that if our business goes up, Prince William County's business goes up. And the business that we would assist them with, obviously, if it goes up, then our calls out of town goes up. There's not a direct correlation that since we're seeing more calls for service, that they're seeing more calls for service. Everybody's seeing more calls for service. And then we assist where we can and where we need to. And of course, a lot of our outside calls for service are emergency calls because we can get there quicker and faster. So, if it's a car wreck, if it's a domestic or an assault in progress, then obviously, our officers are going to go to where they need to go to resolve that issue as quickly as possible. So there's no direct correlation, but like I said, if our calls for service is up, everybody's calls for service is up.
Okay. And I said I had last question, but I was mistaken. So in regards to the out-of-town activity, the MOU that we have in place and so forth, right? The concern I have is, as you indicated, based on what's going to happen at Crossroads, and the area in general is growing, right? So there's going to be an uptick of calls. There's going to be an uptick of out-of-town calls where we're going to be required to assist. So my concern is that's going to cause strain on our resources, right?
It can, sir, but keep in mind that that's a reciprocating agreement. So we can call for outside services outside of our jurisdiction to help us when we're under the weather, so to speak, when we're having an excessive amount of calls in a certain amount of time. So the old adage would be scratch my back, scratch your back kind of a world. So look at the positive aspect of, if I send somebody out, that's usually one person I'm sending. But if I request somebody, I'm usually getting 20 or 30. So we're definitely on the right end of that debit there. So it just works hand in hand. And that's, like I said with Mike, Officer Danielson and myself, we worked in a task force together that involved 10 different agencies. And so the smaller agencies always reap the biggest benefit because we were going to bring 100 narcotics agents to one small jurisdiction to take care of a problem. So the smaller jurisdictions are the ones that usually make out in those agreements because we can request those resources. The bigger agencies have the resources and they have the equipment to bring to bear. And of course, we couldn't send what we don't have. We take care of business here in town of Haymarket first, and then if we have time, we go outside. But keep in mind, those are mainly in the emergency circumstance stage. A car that's flipped over, or a wreck, or that's blocking traffic, or an assault in progress. Those are usually when we proceed out of town, and we're covered through the mutual aid agreement to do so.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, can I add one last thing?
Go ahead.
I was going to save it for my council member time, but I want to highlight how Officer Chan this morning had stopped by our neighborhood bus stop. And mind you, I don't go use the bus. I work at the school, so I see the children afterwards. And they all arrive with these shiny gold badges. And I'll tell you what, there were kids that don't live in the neighborhood wearing them that are like from Gainesville and stuff because they were so excited about them. Their friends shared them with others. So I just want to say what a great thing to do that. And I really appreciate Officer Chan doing that.
He does a great job, and this is his first day back on day shift.
Well,
So there he is, making an impact already.
he sure is. So thank you.
So, yeah. So, thank you all for your comments.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, I want to piggyback on Councilman Vianney. The dispatch calls are definitely showing high as well as, officer initiated. It's only one data point. It does raise concern of, are we getting more crime in town or not? But it is only one data point, but we do need to make sure that we are aware of it and look at it closely because when you look at our census report showing that we've lost residential count and all of a sudden we're seeing this, doesn't look too good. So make sure that we at least focus on other data points that are possible and at least try to come up with our feel for what's happening here.
Gotcha. Well, I think we're also going to have that crime prevention, the money that we've set aside for crime prevention investigations. That's also going to be a little part of that, and I think that we can tamp that back down a little bit. And that individual will be collecting data on all aspects of that as well. So we'll be able to specifically target an issue or a problem or an area if that's being a consistent issue.
Do we see it more in one area though? Because we know like most of our late night activity always happens at Sheets, and
Right.
so that could help identify what's really happening in these numbers.
No, it's actually pretty spread out. It's, if you looked at more the crime base of it, yes, it's going to be more towards the west side. But if you look at the domestics or assaults or things like that, it's pretty spread out. There's no really one area where we're spending a lot of more time than we are others.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to the town attorney report. I think, Mary, you wanted to pull that?
Yes, hi, thank you. All right, so I wanted to know if, on item number 3, consulted with staff regarding the High Point application and research questions regarding permitted uses in R2. Is that something that we can speak about here openly in a meeting, or is that something that we would need a closed session to discuss?
I have to say that this is my first meeting regarding this particular issue, so I'm not up to speed on it. But I can get up to speed pretty quickly on it and then give you an opinion about whether or not this needs to be discussed in closed session or if we can discuss it in open session. I just don't know enough because it's my first day in this
No,
seat
absolutely.
right now to tell you
Totally
that.
fine.
But I'd love to look closer into this and give you an
Okay.
opinion on that.
Perfect. Have they submitted an application?
So a little background. First, Olin and I are going to meet tomorrow with Mayor
Okay.
and Roberto as well. So we'll
Okay.
kind of do the offloading, uploading, all the things with Olin.
Okay.
They have submitted an application to the town. We have reviewed it for completeness. There is not a comprehensive plan amendment request in the documents that were submitted. We have emailed them back end of last week asking them if this is something to follow, if they're going to be submitting it, if they're currently working on it. Have not heard back yet. So we are currently under that review. That's something that's going to come to the council at the work session meeting for you guys to direct it down to Planning Commission to hold a public hearing and to publicly notice that project.
Okay.
So that's where we're at with that.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, I thought I saw your hand up.
Well, I was going to do this at the council member time, but just welcome aboard, Olin.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you here. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out, I saw Martin on LinkedIn today, Martin Krim, and I wanted to thank him for myself anyway, for his 10 years, I think, maybe a little more than 10 years of service to the town, and I wish him all the best in his new business venture. But
Absolutely.
we're happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Anyone else?
I was going to ask the same thing. Great minds think alike, right? Yeah, so she asked my question there.
Okay. We'll move on then. Financial liaison report.
I'll start with that. So the question I had forwarded to the council, is that, oh, you can go first, ladies first, go for it.
No. Go ahead. No. She's going to answer first. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
He pulled the report, so I thought I'd let him go first.
So we had talked briefly during the CIP discussion about what would lead up to us being able to move forward the town center site plan for RFP. Just wanted to check in. I notice you have a rolling sort of agenda of the finance committee. Do we have the capacity to be able to move that to an RFP process?
You want my answer or you want their answer?
Well, just sort of do we have, so we,
Phased approach,
let me
we
just
still
second,
need
so
to figure
we.
out.
I think we need to have more of a discussion on it.
Okay.
We're not there yet. I think our focus right now is the RFP for the sidewalk and accelerating and getting that out there. The RFP, we have to see what the numbers look like, and then we want to see how can you sequence the work? Because I think it's going to be a large number to do the whole thing, so we're going to have to stage it. And we haven't really had a chance to talk about that, unless you want to add anything to that. Yeah.
But the site plan has been approved. Okay, so as part of that, rather than sort of phasing funding it, if we have the ability, we're getting ready to retire a lot of our debt. If we're able to take out a loan that maybe would advance that project, my concern is we got, as I've said before, we have a demand for services quickly increasing. The sidewalk is the priority. I know that's what we had discussed before, but if there's an opportunity to at least start moving that RFP process forward, I'm getting some better numbers and cost estimates and just not let that fall off the radar. So that's something that
Yeah.
finance could
Yeah.
continue to talk about.
I saw your communique on that,
Yeah.
and that's something we need to talk about. Does staff want to add anything to that?
I think all that we would add is that I put it on our agenda for our finance committee meeting this week, so we can talk through it. We'll have a better idea once we're able to get more of the bid information for the RFP for the sidewalk and bring that back up. of how we can sequence both projects.
And even not so much sequence, obviously, we'd have to have the staff capacity to be able to manage that in terms of everything else that we're doing, but at least have them sequentially where, as we're finishing up one, we're in a position to begin the other and continue to make sure that we're moving forward on those, especially with the ARPA monies and the profit dollars that we have coming in. And if we do have to, incur some additional debt to make that happen. So, thank you.
As well as, who knows, maybe we can piggyback curb and gutter on the same thing with Phase 1.
Maybe. I mean, obviously, we don't have enough money to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we don't really even know what it's going to cost on the sidewalk project. And that's probably why it's a good idea to set out the RFP earlier, because then you'll get a sense of where the numbers are going. You can always do an addendum to the RFP later for any technical corrections. So we need to get a better sense of what that's going to be like, and then we can figure out where we're going with the other stuff.
Okay. Thank you for looking into it.
Yeah. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Any other questions for the financial liaison report? Comments?
You have any comments there, Chief?
Thought you were all loaded for that. It's okay. Next on the list, the business liaison report. The only reason I pulled that one, I guess I get to go first since I pulled it. The only reason I pulled that is I would like to highlight the Zip Trip.
Yes.
And I would like you to speak to it and make sure that the residents realize that this is coming up.
It's coming up. So it will be June 16th, which is a Friday, 6 a.m. to 11:30. It'll be a jam-packed day. We have recommended for our local legend, Supervisor Bob Weir. And I could leave that all alone, but I will go ahead and say, for his efforts of protecting the rural Crescent over decades. So we also have recommended Donna Flory for our local hero. She's an amazing volunteer contributor to our community. She is with the Haymarket Gainesville Rotary. I'm very, very honored to give her this acknowledgement. For the local Biz Beat, we are recognizing diversity within Haymarket with Maine Masters and owners Candace and Tyrone. And then we've got 3 restaurants that we have recommended to do the segment. That would be Giuseppe's, Red Horse Tavern, and Parando's. Red House, sorry. Thank you. I'm thinking Middleburg. Thank you very much. And then you can tell where I was earlier today, just saying. Other businesses as recommended for selection, we've got Jazzercise doing Tyler's segment, Transform Yoga doing our morning workout, and then we have a recommendation of Battle of the Brews with Truby and Great Maine, which are our 2 breweries here within Haymarket. So it'll be exciting. I'm very, very happy.
It's 5 o'clock everywhere.
Exactly. It'll be a fun day.
Tracy Lynn, Pam Swinford had mentioned they were doing some filming of Copper Cricket. Is that part of it as well?
So we had them out earlier to highlight some of our local businesses. So their whole concept is to kind of take in certain areas and then they'll piece it together as they're doing their live shots and then going in and doing other businesses.
Filler, I forgot the word for it is,
Yeah.
but sort of, okay, I got you. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, any more questions or comments on that? Okay, that's all the pulled reports. Let's make a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Town Council approve consent agenda items A1 through 2, B1, C1 through 5, and D1 through 5.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. I'd like to make a friendly addendum that we need to move all of the reports.
So moved. I thought I did that. Right?
And a agreement from second.
Agreed.
Okay, anybody have any other discussion put in that? Okay, take it off for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, now we'll go on to the regular agenda items. Resolution 008, PD vehicle purchase. We had to do an amendment on it because of the added decaling and stuff. Refresh our minds, Roberto, and we'll move with it, right? What was it, 2 point something grand?
Back at page 45.
Yes, it's, so initially, when we did our first amendment request for the purchase of the vehicle, I believe I spoke to this last week,
Yep.
it was due to, when the vehicle was actually received, they do have some additional modifications done to the vehicle that were for the prior purchaser that no longer wanted it. So we are obviously going to have to pay for that difference. So that's why we are amending it for the additional $2,519, which is being taken from the CIP, which will be reducing FY 2024's proposed budget as well for next year.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move the Haymarket Town Council approve an appropriation to the fiscal year 2022-23 budget as designated by resolution number 2023-008.
Okay, got a motion and second. Any comments or questions before we vote? Okay, since this is a money vote, roll call vote, please. Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Skipped.
Yes.
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 Okay, we got a full vote in there, so we move on. Resolution 009, the mitigation plan. Any amendments you wanted to highlight, Chief?
No, sir. And I did, at your request, review, didn't see any specific triggers, but I will follow up on that with emergency services. And we can still take care of our own as well from last week's work session.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's page 80. 82. Nice when they put them down on the side. and you flip.
Okay, any motions?
Motion? Anybody?
Anybody? Bueller?
They laugh a little bit.
Okay, all right. I'll just make a motion here that council approve resolution number 2023-009 hazard mitigation plan.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Last chance for discussion. Okay, put it up for a vote.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
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 Okay, next resolution, 10, the real estate rate. Give a reminder for everybody, Roberto.
Yes, Council and Mayor. So this is the resolution to officially adopt, if that is what the council chooses to do tonight, the rate of bringing down the rate, existing rate of 0.115 per 100 to 0.111 per 100. Again, this is, we had a public hearing on May 1st. We're in a position to assist the town residents by reducing the tax rate. So here is the resolution for you guys to discuss and make a motion or vote on it tonight.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Please, Sue.
I'd like to make a motion that the Haymarket Town Council adopt resolution number 2023-010, resolution to adopt the real estate tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, you got a motion and second. Last chance for discussion. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
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 This is the part of the agenda my dog ate.
I could just hear the paper gripping onto itself, and it's just cracking me up.
I don't know. I actually think it was the.
Look, my microphone was off for half the meeting.
Sorry about that. Roberta was stoic. I couldn't get him to laugh while I was doing it.
Okay, well, we'll move on. We got the next agenda item, which is the directive towards the public notice for the third quarter budget amendment.
So council, the reason why I placed this request is because usually in the past, towards the end of the year, we try to correct any overages that we may have there in the budget. I am not sure how you guys feel about it, but I don't think I will need to do a public hearing because I've been working with the chief and I'm able to address it with the existing budget to move funds around. So to hold a public hearing wouldn't be necessary because it doesn't trigger the 1%. It will be with the same budget, just moving some of the line items within the department's budget to offset some of the part-time and overtime overages that we have received. But if appeases you all, we could set a public hearing date for the 26th June work session, which would address all the amendment requests to the existing budget. And if it would be, you guys would be able to vote on it that same evening as well.
So I guess we got to get a consensus here of who's all going to be here on the 26th. Is this the meeting that you were going to pre-schedule?
So the meeting on 26th is our normal work session. The June 22nd meeting is for the budget FY23 for adoption. We could hold a meeting. We could add this to it, but when I did ask for you guys to do the 22nd, they promised it would be just that one item. So if it would be okay, we could do it on 26th of June. Is it 26th of June?
It's good with me. Anybody have comments?
How are you feeling about that?
I like the 26th.
For both?
Well,
I'm happy to address anything necessary on a scheduled work session meeting.
So if we did it on the 26th, Councilmember Ramirez, what it would be is that we would hold a public hearing for the amendment, and then council will be able to vote on it the same evening.
So let me see, let me understand this. So you're saying that you think you can affect the changes just by rebalancing within the specific departments?
Yes, sir. I've actually been working on it last week. I was hoping to be able to talk to finance on it this week, kind of show where my train of thought is, and also get along with the chief within his department. As you guys all remember, in last year's this current budget, at the time when we were preparing this year's budget, we had a huge increase in gas fuels. If you guys are aware, he's been able to save a lot of that funds there, so we're able to move it within a few different line items in the department to adjust for the overtime overage and part-time overage.
But we're moving enough money, we need a public announcement for it?
So
It's over 1%.
hold on, if you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but in the past, it's always been that if the overall budget isn't changed by at least 1%, more than 1%, technically we do not need to hold a public hearing. And overall, all it is moving funds within the existing budget, so it won't change the overall budget amount.
That's my understanding as well.
So we're just looking for a directive at this meeting then, right?
Correct.
Okay. But the adoption of the next year's budget, you still want a special meeting for that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, because we have already encountered some scheduling conflicts that actually the 22nd is still a go, but if we were to lose, I think one more council will be able to attend, we would have to wait to the 26th to have a full quorum, I believe. So the 22nd is the date that we do, at this currently, I think we will be short one council in for that meeting, but I just don't want to risk rushing in last minute to try to get this budget, adopted.
So will we have a quorum on the 22nd?
Yes, we currently do, for now.
Right. And
It's correct that only one of you, Marchant, cannot make it that night, correct?
Okay.
Is there anybody else who's tentative, maybe? Maybe tentative? You're here?
1, 2, 3.
If anything changes, let us know as soon as possible.
So it would be the 22nd of June, special. The 26th would be regular work session.
Correct.
Okay.
And the 22nd
Is it Thursday?
is a Thursday.
Roberta
And it,
promised 45 minutes.
I did not promise.
Or less.
10 minutes, right?
Yeah, estimated.
Mary and I
In and
hold on
out.
to that.
And since we have a remote participation policy, if somebody's not present and they want to participate, they could, as long as we have a quorum.
As long as you have a quorum present in Town Hall building.
Right, okay.
And that can be found on page 14 and 15 for everybody's review.
Yes.
I'm not calling it for middle.
Oh, you're a no, absolutely not.
No, no.
Wait a minute, but where?
No.
Where?
Italy.
So,
Okay, so we're good with that then. We can pretty much just table that agenda item with the
June
discussions
26th,
we've had.
okay.
If
Thank you.
there are no rejections, we'll move on. Okay, staff, before we do those, staff, you are clear on what's been laid out then, right? Okay. Okay, we'll move on. Stormwater assessment, kind of got a little introduction to that.
Yes. So again, as I had mentioned earlier, this is a standard common practice where if you're working with another jurisdiction, a regional agency, regional commission, so forth, it is not uncommon that that agency would accept the monies in from this grant and they would help the smaller jurisdiction or locality to fulfill the project. In this case, it's the stormwater assessment program that we're looking to do. And we're looking at Prince William County in order for them to help us do this assessment. So we're asking the EPA to put them as the listed, grantee and receive the money on our behalf. And what this will do, we've already spoken with Prince William County. We've spoken with Tom Smith, who is the Director of Public Works, and he has okayed it. He thinks that it would be a smoother transition of the funding and the, in general, facilitation of this assessment. What Prince William County is helping us with is they're going to have their third-party consultant, who they work with often, come in, help us determine what we have as a stormwater program, what our management is, what the status, maintenance, you name it. If it has to do with stormwater, they're going to assess it. But their biggest thing is we're going to have to identify everything that we have. So on our end, this will still be a big project for us. So it will still take a lot of staff time, and we will also probably have more engineering hours from our engineer to get her to come in and do some help with us and just pulling old site plans, getting everything identified the best we can on paper so that we can hand that over to the county and they can come in and they can see it, put eyes on it, and go out and do the field assessments. So that's what we're looking at with this project. What this is ultimately hoping to achieve is a well-documented report that says, here are your deficiencies, here's what needs some work, here is, priorities that are laid out, and then we can then in turn talk as a council and discuss what's our priority, what are we going to work on, are we going to see if Prince William County will take over our stormwater management program? If they are, what are they willing to do? Is it an additional cost to the town residents through a taxation program? What does that look like? So we won't know any of those details until we first start and recognize what we have and how it's currently maintained.
So the initial onus on us then is to come up with an inventory.
The best we can, yes. So once I send this signed letter back over to Prince William County, they're going to sign it as well. The director, Tom Smith, will sign it. They'll submit it. or we can send it out to EPA. I'll work with my contact at the county. We'll get that going, and then I think we'll have another meeting once we have a better idea of when the funding's going to come in, what our homework is, if you will, and that's most likely going to be pulling every site plan that we have for the town, and then any additional stormwater information that we have.
So,
So questions, anybody?
yes, yes. I know, Alexander, you were a little quizzical here on this, and I was going to ask Emily if she can explain a little bit more about the fact that the county has a charge for this that's on your tax bill, and the town doesn't. So can you speak just a little bit to the history of it?
I can speak briefly to it, and then I can gather more information if we need more and come back and explain more. But in Prince William County, when you're a resident strictly in the county, not within the town as well, you pay various other taxes on your property tax bill. One of those is a stormwater fee. So that's something that every county resident pays. It goes to the Public Works Department for stormwater management across the county. That's just in very simple terms how they've laid it out. We here in the town do not collect that tax. We do not have a designated pot of money for stormwater management. We have a lot of different stormwater management systems. Some are under an HOA that has good guidelines and agreements where they do the maintenance, they do the proper testing, they do the reporting, everything that needs to be done from cleaning multiple times a year to flushing the system, so forth. So we have some HOAs that do that. We have some that do not. And that's not necessarily at their fault. It could be at fault of how the agreement was written. And we also have some areas that have stormwater but don't have an HOA, where the HOA may have gone defunct. And so there's no managing body of that at this time. So there's some question when and we'll see it this summer, we always do, is when we have those 100-year storms, we're getting them more frequently, especially in the summer times, usually July timeframe, we'll get a couple bad ones. You'll see parts of Washington Street flood, mainly right here at our exit where we leave, literally right here on Washington Street, you'll have portions of it flood out. And since the hotel's gone in, it slows some of the water down because the water goes underground, goes into their system, trickles down. You're also not getting straight sheet flow off of their site. So that's helped some, but further down you have Jefferson Street and Fayette Street. That was called 18th Century. And so that was the, I guess, neighborhood, if you will. There is no HOA there anymore, but their stormwater system has been affected by everything on Washington Street as well as other surrounding properties. Back here on Fayette Street on the north side, you have something similar where you do have some older homes that are affected with some of the new development that's happened on Washington Street. And then as the stormwater goes off down towards 66 and ultimately under, they're getting affected. So what we're trying to do is determine, where are those systems at, what needs to be cleaned up. On the east side of town, what other systems do we have, how are they functioning? We hear about some on this side of town more frequently because we see the flooding on Washington Street. We have construction happening a little bit closer here, so we do have residents who are, I would say, hyper aware, and that's not at all their fault. It's a good thing, but they're hyper aware of what's happening in their backyard, and so we do hear about it more than we do in some of our more established neighborhoods.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. I wasn't aware of that, so thank you.
And as we work through this process, as we work through the assessment, the potential for joining into Prince William's stormwater management, if that's even a possibility, we'll know more, I'll share more. It'll be part of the report with the running line items of where we're at and what we're doing.
Thank you.
And of course, the concept is we're aware of how much we'll have to invest to be able to go in their program, as well as understand how much these systems cost, and when these systems start to fail, what we're going to be responsible for in the future. When you're looking at the reinforced concrete that went under under Washington Street for the streetscape program, I have a feeling we own all that. Reinforced concrete usually has a life cycle of 40 years. So we've got another 20 years, but in 20 years, if that fails, We got to dig all that up and replace it, which is going to be millions of dollars. Something a town does not plan for without a public works. So if we could get this to Prince William County, who has a public works, has a revenue stream coming from the tax base, this would be a better program for us to get away from if we can.
Yes, that makes sense, yeah, I agree. But the downside to that is I'm assuming that the town residents are going to be taxed more, right? Which, everybody else is paying the same tax, it's not, that's
Yeah,
the only downside.
I don't recollect what it is, but when I researched it before, I think it was like in the $30 a year extra.
Yeah, okay, that's logical, yes.
I'd have to research.
Yeah.
And I don't know if initially off the bat it would be more, I don't know. That was something we'd have to ask them about. For this item, if council's able just to give a directive to sign on behalf of the town that we would like to change the name, I'll get this sent over to the county tomorrow, have their signature placed on it, and then we'll get it out in the mail.
Okay, if there's no objections,
No objection.
okay,
Thank you.
as directed. Okay, Town Park Building Questionnaire.
Yes, real quick, Marchant, did you have copies?
No,
Okay, I have printed copies. Roberto will pass those out for the Town Park Building Questionnaire. If you guys would like to take a look, Marchant, if you and Tracy Lynn discuss the questions with the council, what you guys have come up with. If you have changes, I can make them real time. My suggestion is that we finish this tonight, and with that, we have an agreement on the questions. We have a timeline in place of when it's going to go out and when it's going to be closing, and when you guys are going to have the results back, so that we're all on the same page, we can keep it moving. I'll print it again, hold on.
for some reason we weren't able to get into Outlook today.
Yeah, we've had some connectivity issues, so.
So part of that was, the last time we had this discussion was looking at, we have a plan that was developed in 2016 and sort of doing a reaffirmation of the elements of the park, which we've already changed to some degree, especially where the location of the playground is. I think also this moved us to the forefront with the assessment of the park building. And before we make any key decisions about how to put money into that building, if we put money into that building, was to reaffirm with the community that that's the desired direction. So I worked with Tracy, Lynn, and Emily to come up with a series of questions, 6 questions, with an introduction that more or less says we adopted a plan in 2016. Here's a link. The town is undergoing this exercise of looking at the building. The options are generally, the plan had a park services building, which was the house. Do we want to continue to keep that? The plan also had a new construction of a park services building. Do we go that direction? Do we wish to remove the building and simply have public restrooms? The other one is to remove the building, move the pavilion. So the pavilion and the house or the park services building was 2 different elements of the plan. Replace one with the other, take parts of that house and incorporate it into a larger pavilion on the footprint of the old house, if that was one direction. And then the last question would be, what are your thoughts, the community, what are your thoughts on what we would like that to be? One thing I wanted to clarify is I've gotten a lot of mixed reactions about calling a community center or space. It means a lot of different things to different people. So I went back and read the plan again. 2 things with the terms of what they call it a park services building, which was supposed to be public restrooms, office, storage, and an informal meeting space. I think that was key. Informal meeting space is really not programming it, but if you've been into that house, there's a living room, there's a dining room. The idea was it would just be an open space that people can congregate if they needed the space to use. And then also the back of the building was supposed to come off. There's a later addition in the back left corner as you're facing the building. Both the option for new construction or keeping the old one took that old addition off. So it was actually a smaller footprint than originally that was done. So again, going through this exercise, get the sense of the community, reaffirming those elements, changing those elements, new ideas, and hopefully that'll give us some direction on how to move our resources into that building if we choose to do so. So Emily's providing the questions, and also attached to it is just the sketch of what the original master plan was for reference. Tracy, Lynn, did I cover everything?
You did, you did. I think that addressing the definition of community center is vitally important.
Okay.
And then the open-ended question of how our families would utilize it specifically so that we can analyze that. I also feel that we're going to utilize a QR code for survey purposes in order to have that readily for responses. And then us taking it to our neighborhoods. I got good responses when I door knocked for the communication plan. And then making an announcement, obviously, through website, any social media, and possibly the zip trip if given the opportunity.
So, are you planning to give this map, this master plan out along with this questionnaire?
I think that the link in the first part would direct them to that. If you feel like we need to add that for those who might not utilize the link, we're open to that.
So I'm asking because I'm concerned about this master plan not matching what's actually present on the property now.
Okay.
Because it has the playground sort of up front near the street. And that is certainly not the placement of the current playground structure. Not to say that the idea of a multi-use pavilion and the house aren't an option with where the playground is structured
Right.
now. But I feel like it may influence the overall perspective of the use of the space.
Or maybe misdirected, right?
Yeah.
Because we've got the park in a different location.
Yes, yeah, and it doesn't have like the community garden either, so I don't know if,
So maybe, I mean, the master plan was established, how many years ago? I'm sorry.
2016.
Yeah. So that map's going to remain the same. We could possibly add some amendments as to, what are your opinions, Marchant?
No, that's a good point. That's what I mentioned
Yeah.
earlier. We've made some decisions in the interim to do that. The only other suggestion is highlighting, just maybe circling the two elements,
Okay.
and then maybe overlaying, because the parking lot's more or less in the same spot as if the playground's
It's the
up there.
playgrounds in the back.
So we could probably annotate this to better reflect what it is, but if it's going to create too much confusion, we can just point them to the link
Okay.
and say more information here. But I figured visually, people wanted to know what we were talking about, and this
Yeah.
was a way to do that.
so not to like cause more work for you, but do you think that you guys could make a map with the actual placements that we have now and like what we could offer, so that way we could get accurate responses? Because I think this looks lovely.
Visual.
Right.
Right.
So if we're going to provide a visual, can we update the visual?
What
Is kind of
about-
what I'm suggesting. No, you're fine.
We could take an aerial, take the aerial that's there today.
Oh,
And
the
drop.
drone
I was going to say, can we
So I can
Chief?
just go to.
do that
with the drone.
financial reason?
No, no, no.
We have Thomas that can do that. Thomas can do that.
And then maybe we could.
The lowest cost option to have staff complete this is we can do a couple things. We could kindly ask our police department to put up the drone, take a photo of what we have existing today. What you're going to have is you will have some tree coverage because your trees are completely out right now in full bloom. So you might not see all of the features. Matt and I just walked it today, and there's 3 trees very close to the house, so that might shade some of what you actually see there. We can use Prince William County mapper data. Looking at it today, they have taken the photos when it was winter time, so you're not going to see a lot of the tree coverage. You'll see it pretty open, but it does clearly depict where the playground is. We can kind of sketch in there where the trees are because you'll kind of think there aren't that many trees based on the winter image. And then you could also utilize a version of Google Maps or other data, again, getting roughly the same idea. To do a visual image such as the one you see here on your piece of paper, that is going to come at a cost. That was done by an engineering or architectural firm, and they were able to, use pretty software and put together a nice visual. If you don't want to spend a bunch of money on it, I would use Google Maps or County Mapper.
That was my suggestion, just to take the mapper image. We can clip these two elements right here, approximate and lay it over top of it, and just go from there. I can help you.
Also, maybe putting verbiage in the very top portion that states that there have been some adjustments since the master plan, since they're going to be, we're providing the link.
And we can point out those that have changed.
Any comments? Joe, is your hand up?
Yes. Okay. Maybe I'm misreading this, but it seems to me there's actually two questions here. It's 1 through 5, but 1 through 4 are, I guess, A, B, C, and D. That's what we're asking folks. And then number 5 is really number 2, which is what would you like to see at the park,
Oh, I'm sorry.
right?
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for correcting my grammar.
That's okay. But, yeah, okay, you can reference what elements of the master plan would you retain or change, but essentially the real question is, what would you like to see at the park? I think that's what you're asking. So,
I can break that up. So, CIS Council, one of the 4 options, A, B, C, and D. And then question 2, what would you like?
Make it 2 questions with subparts.
Yep, we can do that.
there's no all of the above, though.
Any other comments?
Yeah, we'll go through this exercise. So.
Yeah, one comment I have, though, when you talk about a building, okay, my concern is we invest in this building, but then we have no services or any type of funding to create services, staffing to keep it up, and it becomes a shuttered building, just like the museum has been. And the concerns of trying to figure out how to open up the museum and get it from being shuttered, all boils down to funding, right? So, I would like some type of sub-question if you pick one of the building options, A or B. Are you willing to have a sub-revenue stream attached to our budget that totally funds some type of program so that this building doesn't stay shuttered?
Well, doesn't that become part of our maintenance budget?
Well, Emily, your expertise, what are you looking at to try and keep this open? What kind of programs would need to be put in place? What staffing support would be required for it? Would we need to look at a part-time staffing, added staffing, just to keep this thing open?
So some of the ideas that I know myself and Roberto have talked through, I don't know if we brought this to Finance Committee yet. No matter what, if we have restrooms on the site, which I think every one of these options has restrooms, we automatically have to have weekly, if not multiple times a week, cleanings. They need to be, done in a manner that it's hygienic. We can pretty much spray it out. So that's, you're going to have that charge there. People who want to rent it, we can, explore the options of current staff, but I'll tell you right now, current staff is pretty much maxed out on what we're trying to accomplish. So we would need at least a part-time position to help with scheduling of the building, meeting with the group, opening it up, doing a security walkthrough, closing it up, so forth and so on. If you wanted to have it a more interactive community space, then I think we need to start looking at this staff person would also work with community organizations to offer small classes or workshops there, whether it be for, young kids, or we partner with Prince William County Parks and Rec and see if they have any resources that they could come in and do kind of on-site things with us. So I think it all depends ultimately on what you want to pick, but I don't want to jump ahead of an agenda item, but we do have some ideas for the museum that are new. But, you know, as of a week ago, until this opportunity kind of fell at our doorstep, I was struggling to figure out how we're going to staff and fund opening the museum when all I have is a really small budget just for doing exhibits. I mean, we don't even have the budget to appropriately pay an intern to do a lot of really hard work to get exhibits put up in the museum. So I think it all comes down to what's their preference and then what do they envision it to be.
I feel like that is the foundation of the question for the community, and then based on what the community gives us, then we can build off of what we can service or how we're going to service or what that's going to look like. I think that, because I don't want to muddy the waters, it's what do you envision? How can this space, this building or structure benefit you within your family, your community? And then we can build up as far as what it might take.
And
My humble opinion.
one of the thoughts to add to that, when Tracy Lynn Marchant and I met last week, we kind of tossed out this number 2 question here of what do you envision? If 75% of the people come back and say, I envision being able to have a family picnic, then we might better know, okay, we need a minimal amount of staffing to schedule or reserve it. That's something that can fall under our maintenance coordinator, because he's going to be up there checking out the space every day, making sure it's clean, tidy, taking out trash as part of his regular duties. Hanging a sign that this table is reserved might not be, you know, overly burdensome for what he's currently doing. If 75% of your constituents write back and say that they really want to be able to rent it like a HOA clubhouse, then we need to evaluate a staff position.
Yep.
I guess it goes down to when I said initially, forget about the house for a second. It's the services that we are wanting to provide the community, right?
Function.
Right. And if, to Tracy's point, you know, I look at the council as what we plan, solicit input, prioritize, budget, and execute. And if we come back with this directive, hey, it's one of these options, or we go with, you know, what do we envision? It's some new idea we want to do, then that's our job to figure out how to do it, right? If it's a public service that we're interested in having, then that's our charge to figure out how to make that happen. And I think, you know, hopefully the businesses that are coming in will be successful. And I'm not suggesting that we budget based on money we don't have yet. I just see us having some more revenue streams and some more critical mass of residents that we may have the ability in the future to be able to fund some of these things.
Yep.
So.
But as we stress our budget with added services, we need to make sure that they understand that this requires money.
Well, I think it's implied that if it's a public service that we're going to have to.
Sometimes you got to slap the people in the face, though, so.
Sorry, thanks.
Anybody? Joe?
No? Okay, so I have a couple of questions. I'm glad we're talking functions, because form follows function, as I've said before. So folks are going to allegedly get this, right? And then if I'm a discriminating reader, I'm going to say, well, what is the cost estimate of upgrading the structure versus doing something else? Do we have any idea what that is? Because frankly, the numbers that we got, I find very dubious, and I've said that before, with respect to the estimate. No knock on the individual that did the report as far as the cost estimating. That wasn't, in my mind, a realistic number, because it didn't go through the RFP process and include all of the soft costs and what have you. So that's an important question, especially when you start to want to make a decision between the three, because I think cost is an issue. I don't think there's any doubt on that, especially when we have other spaces. So I think it would behoove us to have some kind of a cost comparison and a maintenance and operational maintenance comparison. And so perhaps maybe some visuals of the buildings themselves, you know, a pavilion versus what this building might look like. I don't know. That's just an idea. But again, I just want to go back to the survey itself and what is a reasonable response rate here that we would find acceptable? Because when we did the communication survey, that was extremely low, right?
The first go-round
The
was
first
extremely
go-round,
low.
right. So that's a question. What would be a reasonable response rate to make a decision on, or at least get some direction from the community? And I guess even more practical, how are we going to do this survey? How is it going to be distributed, collected, and
Right.
And compiled.
Agreed, agreed. I would say, just from my experience, that at some point we have to take the responses and the participants for what they are. Because we can sit here collectively and say, out of our population, I'd like to have 25% response. We may never reach 25%. We're going to have folks that are going to participate. We're going to have folks that aren't going to participate. We're going to have folks that choose to verbalize but not necessarily document, right? So I think that the timeline is probably more efficient as opposed to a percentage of responses. And then we take that and we evaluate. And then if we need to structure it slightly different in order to get a better response participatory wise, then we evaluate that. But I wouldn't put a percentage simply from my experience in how everybody is, right? So I would give it out, and I would do the QR code. We have, if we can get it together, we can approve the question. We've got the Father's Day Farmers event, Farmers Market event. We have many opportunities to put it out there and to speak to it, and then we as a council can take it to our neighborhoods, we can take it to our neighbors. But I think a timeline is more of what we should be focused on, not necessarily a percentage of response.
Okay, initially, when we started discussing this, I also, like you, Joe, I thought the residents need to have a little bit more information, right, to make educated decisions or choices, right, in terms of cost and so forth. But maybe the approach that we're taking is, hey, without giving them additional information, let's see what their preference is, right? But hopefully that will not dictate what we end up doing, right? Hopefully we're going to take cost into consideration, right? At some point, at our level, we're not going to go and come back and say, oh, this is what they prefer, so this is what we should do, right? Hopefully that's not going to be the case. But we'll see. Go ahead.
Wish lists do not include funding. People don't think about cost with a wish list.
Of course.
So that's what I'm trying to get at
Yes.
here. We need to put a question in there saying, hey, you want this service? If you're going to go with something that's a little bit more expensive or something, you need to expect that there's a stress.
May I say something? So I hear everyone with cost concerns and everything, but I do want us to remember that there is a whole process for us to have to spend money. We're going to need a public hearing. We're going to need all of these things. It's going to be a very slow moving train that everybody can hop on, hop off, give feedback, redirect. So I don't want it to sound like we're not going to allow the public's input on the finance side, because I definitely think there's a time and place for that will happen. But for right now, I think it's really important that we understand what people want, because we can sit up here and try and make policies, but if we're not connected to our community, we're not asking the questions, then we won't have the answers ourselves, because we all, 7 of us, have our own perspectives and opinions, and that's great, but we have 1,000+ people out there that live in our community that want to use these resources that might have opinions we haven't thought of yet. And that's how we'll get to a healthy debate. And hopefully, if we ask them these questions, they're going to become invested in this process, and they will come to the public hearing and they will tell us, yes, spend money on this, spend money on it, or do not spend money on this, I want this instead. Like, we will hear that inevitably. So I don't want us to get hung up on the money right now. I think that these questions, honestly, are the basic questions that keep it general, but like, give us an idea of what you want, what the function is, so then we can move forward.
I think the point of the questions is to get involvement and to get some insight as to what the community might want. And then it's up to us to take that, break it down, like Mary was saying, and then provide additional options, right? Because 100%, I would want them to be able to make decisions or have input based on not just what the service is or what the building might be, but what it might cost and how that might impact them as a family with taxes and such. I think we have to start at grassroots, and that's what these questions are doing.
And talking about opinions, Mary, I wasn't here when, back in 2016, of course, right? But to me, again, this is my opinion, I thought we would prioritize things that can be leveraged by the masses, not opposed to a space where you have to rent it, reserve it, what have you, right? That we would focus on things like that. Again, this is my opinion. But of course, I wasn't here back in 2016, but yeah.
They're all good points, if I may. So how do we differentiate between the options? Do they have different functions? Just playing devil's advocate.
Well, it sounds like the Lewis home, which is the structure currently existing, right, is one of the pieces of this puzzle. And then that would serve as the Park Services building, which would include restrooms, storage, office, and informal community space. And then there was one into turning it into a multi-use pavilion, which is obviously going to be an open air structure that would be difficult to technically reserve other than like putting like a placard on there. You know what I mean? So it would be more first come, first serve in my opinion, plus public restrooms. So it sounds like those are the two pieces. Is that what your question was?
Essentially.
Okay.
But there are certain things you can do at an open pavilion that you can't do, I think, in a adaptive reuse of the Lewis House. But perhaps it would need for each option, how do you break it down? How is it going to function for the community, more or less? That's really the question. I'm not sure if people really understand the 2016 master plan, but you're going to have a link to that. Is that what I heard?
Mm-hmm. Okay. It would be up in this front part, just as a reference.
Okay. All right, so is there a consensus about the first four being options? Being one question, one? Okay. All right. And then opening it up to the citizens of the town, what would they like to see? And maybe something totally different, like you said.
So it would be two questions. Question one would have subparts. And then we would take that, we would analyze that information, see what our constituents are interested in, and then we can dissect that, and we can revisit another, like, are you willing to do this?
Right.
Yeah, or no, is that?
Yeah, but let me just flesh this out a little bit further.
Sure.
So we're talking about reusing the existing Lewis Park home, or Lewis home as a Park Service building. That's just standalone, that building right now. Is that what we're saying?
Correct, with the elements earlier in the paragraph. There are
Okay.
3 elements by the plan.
And then the second one is, we're going to keep the place, but then we're going to expand it, or we're going to do an addition or new structure?
So the plan had an option. Remember I showed you guys the two. One was reusing an existing building, one was constructing new within a smaller footprint and would provide the same services as a reuse of the building.
Okay, and then the third one is essentially demolish and just put up restrooms. That's it. And then the last one, of course, is demolish and then do some kind of an open-air pavilion.
Incorporate.
bathrooms. That incorporates the home.
Incorporates the, right, okay.
It would be a separate bathroom facility.
Right. So it might take a little bit of explaining when you do the survey, to folks, because they might ask the same kind of questions.
Sure,
So,
sure.
So they're better informed at
yeah, I agree.
what they'd like to do.
Do you have comments for us?
Yes. So maybe you simplify it even more. You put, do you use the park? Yes or no? And your yes would then lead to some of those questions. And no, maybe understand why. And that might be, oh, because of, it doesn't have this element, dog park, something, whatever.
Basketball court.
And then, as
So
a,
maybe make that.
if it's
third
yes, then we do the.
Then you
Do the options. If it's no,
exactly.
then we go to question 2.
Exactly.
What do you want to see?
Yeah, why?
We can work on that.
Yeah.
And to expand on that, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, instead of what do you envision, okay, keep the what do you envision at the town park, but I think we should also give them the option to decide something else other than what the choice is here, something.
That's 5, I think.
No, I don't think that, what do you envision at the town park, I don't think. What I'm saying is instead of the Lewis home, keeping the Lewis home or the pavilion, what else would you rather have, right?
That's what 5 was trying to do, but if we need to say it a different
Yeah.
way, we can say it a different way.
If I may, just my last comment. So to expand on the why, what, do you use it? What about asking the folks that are already using it? And maybe get a sense of who is using it by asking that, because we see a lot of folks there. And who exactly is using it? Are folks in town using it? Or are folks from outside town?
The taxpayers are using it. Whether that be meals tax or residents.
Well, it gives you a better sense of who's using it.
So this why question,
Oh, brother. Go ahead. Go ahead.
the why question would come at whether or not it's a yes or a no. Do you use the park?
Well, I think he's trying to identify, do you use it? Of course, we have people who are already using it.
Right.
And I would argue that folks who live in town pay a lot more in taxes than anybody else. We can do those calculations, which I've done, and frankly, just because you eat in town doesn't necessarily mean you spend a lot of money in taxes versus the taxpayer. So let's just be clear about that.
Well, it would be clear, we would say that the meals tax is, what part of our budget? Almost $1 million, and our real estate for our residents are
All right.
600.
Let's do a calculation.
I'm just saying that we argued that point one time where the people that, well, it just seems like you're correct. The people that actually are participating in the park are probably not residents of the town.
Which would
Majority,
get us to a
I would
point
say a
where
majority.
perhaps-
There again, without having.
Which would get us to a point perhaps where the county should be participating in funding.
That's right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of
County has a
considerations.
meals tax too, so let's take their meals tax and put it into our town.
I
So,
took the suggestion to mean to sort of quickly get people to a response. If we say, do you use the park? Emphasize those
building a
points.
foundation.
If you don't, then you quickly direct them to the other question that's part of it. We can work on that.
But I wouldn't lose the fact that there are people there. And to ask them, as part of your survey, if you're going to do a real survey, what else would you like to see here?
And a gentle reminder that this all started because we got the structural report done. It was reiterated today when Matt and I visited the site that the building is in disrepair and we need to make moves on maintaining it. We don't want to sink good money into something that's going to come down. So I think our answers that we're really looking for is we need to know all of these things, but we also need to know, does our community want us to keep this building? And if so, we need to jump quick on a maintenance plan because we do not want to become this deterioration by neglect issue that we have on other properties. So I just want to remind everybody that that is one of the biggest parts of this discussion we're trying to come to terms with.
So I would call it bridge. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we have to start somewhere.
Right.
So a nice foundation, a direction, and then we can build off of that.
Community involvement will lead to more conversation, which will lead to a decision. So I agree.
And if you guys would like, I mean, I know you guys are all very busy individuals, but we can also, with our timeline we discuss here in a couple minutes, we can designate some staff time and we can take shifts and go spend a couple hours up there. The summer's our busiest season. And, we can interact with our community, no matter who's up there using it. And we can ask those individuals to fill out our survey right then and there.
Emily, why not maybe, suggestions to you guys, something that's minimal, create a box where people can write a note there, they're using it, to Councilman Pasanello's point, because I know my kids use it when they're in town. We're not in town, but
Staff time talking with residents is good too, though.
yeah, either way.
I feel like we have a lot of opportunities within our community to post a survey and a QR code. Again, keeping focus on a timeline that we can then show our community that we're doing an outreach, we're evaluating responses, and we're moving forward. I think that that's pivotal in making this a progressive conversation.
Belabor the conversation for a bit, just to say, Alex, you had said earlier, so the challenge from my background, when people first said, well, what do we want to do with it? What's the vision? And I go back to sort of, I work in policy, I work in ordinances every day. We have a comprehensive plan that was publicly vetted. We have ordinances that were publicly vetted that talk about our historic overlay district and our reuse of structures. We have design guidelines. We have a master plan that went through a very public process. We went through a lot of vetting of the vision for the Hare property and reaffirmation of that. For whatever reason, the decision to move that forward has stalled since 2016. And as Emily said, we're pushing this decision up. In my mind, it was pretty clear. We have these documents that solicited the input from the community, took a lot of time and resources. How do we bridge the gap? Because there seemed to be concern now that those are no longer valid. But Emily's point about time is that we can't wait anymore. We can't, if we were to do this right, we would start over and start from scratch again. Do the public input sessions, do a lot of the additional surveys, start from scratch, but we don't have the benefit of that. So how do we bridge the gap of getting input and feedback in such a way that's meaningful that can help us to move forward on that? And a lot of these questions will fall out once we get the, and again, that's my point earlier was, let's get the input, and then we can start sort of the pros and cons, or even say, I think we can add something about that there obviously is a cost associated with these improvements, but to, I'm sorry to repeat myself. How do we bridge the gap in the short term to get the direction that we need to feel comfortable making a decision so that we feel like we have the backing of the people, the community, that when we do that. In terms of use, I think we have to be realistic to the fact that people at the hotel are probably going to go look at the park. There's going to be a significant, and unfortunately our projects just outside of town did not do a lot of planning of public space. So we're going to by default have people using our public spaces. Farmers market, we appeal to a significantly larger crowd than just our town residents. And so when we say everyone's hometown, that's going to be outside our borders. So I think we're going to have to anticipate that, yes, a significant probably portion of these services are going to be used by people that are not residents of the town. And how do we reconcile that? So thank you for the feedback on this. Is it perfect? No. We hope it gets the basics done. The three of us will huddle again. We'll make the changes. And then we'll check in with each other, and then we'll go from there. And I guess the timeline was next, Emily?
Yes.
So
does council want to see another iteration of this? Do you entrust the conversation with myself, Vice Mayor, and Marchant that we can finalize it? What timeline do you guys want to see these responses submitted back to council by?
I will go ahead and jumpstart that conversation. I fully trust Vice Mayor and Councilmember Schneider and you to construct, with our feedback given now, an appropriate questionnaire. I would love to get it out to the public as quickly as we possibly can. No pressure to you guys if you need a week or so. I do know that the farmers market on the 11th is going to be a lot of fun. So if we could hopefully have the questionnaire up and running by then, that'd be ideal. Just keep in mind also, summer break will be starting that following week. So we will have more families hopefully visiting the town park or walking through town. So we can all take that opportunity to address our neighbors and visitors and businesses. with these questions. And I entrust the deadline to those who make the questionnaire, honestly, because I imagine that this is a project that is important to you.
Any more comments? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. We got a timeline with you, right, before Italy starts.
Now that
Get the
I will
question
say,
out
I will
by
disclose
then.
that a lot of this work that needs to be done, I will not be in town. So I will work to help solicit how,
Will you be at the balloon fight and the ice cream social?
I will be on a jet plane,
Oh,
Sounds like a.
leaving on a jet plane. I know when I'll be back, but I won't be before the battle. My kids will be there though.
you can send some friendly emails to
Yes,
your
yes.
neighbors.
But no, I think the park, Emily's idea was to look at the park, so I think, ideally, maybe we do this in, I'm gonna believe this again, maybe the time frame is at least get a significant response back, and maybe on Haymarket Day, validate it, get validated again. No, just like have it at the booth.
Oh, I thought we were holding it
I
open
was
till.
No,
gonna say, I don't wanna hold it
no,
over
it's
that
just,
long.
That's
we get the input by September.
Sorry.
And then just, and if we want to just do another check-in, people reaction on Haymarket Day, then 1st of November pull a trigger? Are we trying to do something in September? What are we trying to?
Based on how the building is looking, I would ask that we get the results in the next month, pull together a report, have the report submitted to you guys at the July work session of here's what the results are. You guys can digest it. And then we try to pull some trigger early September if possible. I mean, fully respect, we will have another community event, so we can put it out at the summer concert. We're trying to do a movie night September 9th, so we have a couple things that we can check in and share, but I don't want to wait too long, because if we get to winter, and, I mean, Matt's already fighting the squirrels and the groundhogs there. It's
appreciate
not
that.
great.
Yeah, so the survey I was saying would get done before you leave, and then we could get responses to the survey while you're gone.
Yeah, we can check in. Tracy Lynn will be here too.
I will be here. And then I also think, much to your point, we should tier it, right? So we're taking the first set of questions, we take that information, we evaluate it. Do we need to send it out again at one of our events? And like, it literally is a building block. And so that when it comes to us, we can make that decision. And we know that our constituents have had that information at every level to help guide us in what they might want. Yeah.
And I don't know if you're open to this, but maybe taking question 5, elaborating a little bit more. This is what I'm thinking. Again, it's up to you, right? First one would be, what else do you envision at the town park in addition to the public services building, public restroom, and multi-use pavilion?
Okay.
And the second question will be, what else do you envision at the town park instead of those things? Does that make sense? I don't know if you'll be open to that.
I'm sorry, I shortened your name to Alex, sorry.
That's okay, no worries.
Marchand is shortened to Marsh, which is probably even irritating,
Sorry.
so even worse. Okay, yes, I can,
But
we can
that
put
would be
in.
good, because that opens up the opportunity for, we want some type of a solid path for, ADA
The first question
capability.
would allow us to be informed about, in addition to what we're proposing or thinking about, what else are they wanting, right?
Right.
And then the second question would be, it would allow us to know if there are other things that they're prioritizing higher than what we're thinking of, right?
No, that's very.
We can toy around with your
respectful.
suggestions as well.
Yeah, you never know.
Okay,
You never know.
we got it.
Let the kids vote.
Right, awesome. Thank you very much for your input.
Kids vote.
Yeah, let the kids vote.
Put a splash pad
Splash pad,
in. Okay,
A splash pad is
No
so we're good on
pickleball.
our timeline
no
there?
pickleball.
Yes?
What's that?
We're good? We're all good on that discussion?
Do you feel that you've got clear
Clear
direction?
as mud, yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do. Yep, we will, collectively, the three of us can discuss this week and hopefully finalize it by Friday, have it ready for all of our happenings this month and get it cleared out.
Good.
I think that would be
Thank you
great.
for working on this.
Yes.
Not trying to make your lives difficult, it's just
No, I think it's great.
inputs, different perspectives.
I'm open to good
Okay,
Trying to bridge the gap.
conversation.
well,
Next
let's
agenda
move
item?
on. Next
Yep.
agenda item.
Okay, I'm not gonna belabor this. It's almost 9 o'clock. So an opportunity arose last week, right after our meeting. So I want to bring it up to you guys. This is about the town museum. I have the utility costs that I can go through with everybody. That was something I told you I would bring back of what costs we're incurring each month just to keep it shuttered the way it is. That's roughly about $500. We are looking at adding wireless internet should we be able to start renting the museum space, so that would tack on some additional fees. This is a one-time a month cleaning fee that would of course need to increase as we have foot traffic in there on a more regular basis. And then coordination and setup time right now is very low cost, 2 hours of one of our part-time employees' wages. I would foresee this being several hours each week. So again, that number would go up. But what came across our desk was we have a very active group of individuals. Some of them have lived in this community for a very long time. Some of them have just recently moved here and moved into the Del Webb community. They're very interested in an Arts Alliance program. This is something that we sort of tried out before, but what we tried before was renting to individual artists. They would come in, the space was theirs for a month, and they would operate it. That was relatively successful. We had some interest in it, but it was hard to continue to find these artists who were able and willing to rent it and open it. Instead, what this is doing is actually one of the artists is part of this. They want to do an entire alliance program where they're doing scheduling. They have everything from art exhibits to open mic nights to poetry slams, book readings, you name it, but it's arts in your community. And it's arts from the Haymarket area, right outside of the Haymarket area in Prince William County, but it could also be, you know, smaller shows from larger more regional known people or maybe even nationwide known. So again, these women are very interested. We spent about an hour of time together on Friday. I think they have a wonderful idea. This would still allow us, if the council is open and receptive to what their plan is, they would like to look at this being a home for their community group that they're planning. It's going to be a 501c3, I think. And then we would still be able to utilize it for our citizens in our community to rent it. We would have that full capability. So it could become a partnership with an Arts Alliance. They reference things such as the Torpedo Factory as some examples. So Tracy Lynn and I are going to meet with them again on Thursday. They're going to kind of flesh out a little bit more of what that looks like in that capacity. And then I've asked them to plan a presentation to come and present to the town council at your next work session on June 26th. I will give them a time limit, but I would like it to be a productive conversation where they get to present everything they're looking at doing, what they envision the space looking like, and then council gets to ask questions. If it's not something that the council is interested in, I would like us to be transparent and honest with them. I don't want us to go down a route where we lead somebody on thinking that they have a space and they can utilize it, and it come down a couple months later where that's not the case. So I think it's a great opportunity. I think that these women have a lot of support. They are an interesting group. They have a lot of energy and they have, you know, a lot of resources in the arts community, and it's something we don't have on this end of the county. So I think it would really be a great opportunity for us to at least hear them out and explore it. So happy to answer questions about the rental discussion. Still working on finding an occupancy permit, still working to do that. In the interim between all of this, I would like to go ahead and get it renting to our businesses and our residents. So is there feedback on the pricing? Has council given any more thought to it? I know the last we spoke, there was a discussion of possibly allowing HOAs to utilize the space for free once a month within the Monday through Friday timeframe. I'll let Mary, you had your hand up first. You want to go first?
Oh, I was going to ask a question about the balance between this proposed art
Alliance.
alliance with the rental idea.
I think that is totally up to council's discretion. What I kind of envision this space is we look at a schedule and we say there's X amount of hours in the month and 50% of it is one thing, 50% is open to rent. I think that's totally up to your purview, your discretion, what you guys want to envision the space being utilized for. We could try it a couple months with, say, a 50-50 split, and then maybe we don't have as much bite on our side of renting, and we say, let's do a 75-25. It's totally your discretion.
Okay, I was gonna ask more of like, if we're offering this space to them, will their things be in there? And
Good-
what
okay,
will
good
that look
question.
like? I would ask them that question, so when they come to present it,
Yes,
they're
I
ready
will-
to answer that, because one, I don't want it to be rented and damaged.
I will make a note to ask them to elaborate on that. That was one of my questions I had for them when we met Friday. And I let them know that we still very much want to rent it out, and they need to make sure that it's either insured or that the whole open space is still open, and they need to work with what we would be doing in this space, HOAs renting it out, so forth, and their exhibits would need to kind of conform to that.
Okay.
But I'll ask them to elaborate and plan for that question.
Please, because I just want to make sure that they're happy and we're happy. I want to
Right.
make sure that everybody's clear and direct from the beginning.
And are they charging a fee for,
We haven't even discussed through that. We were just discussing what kind of different exhibitors they would want to welcome in, what they would look, if they could teach workshops there, if they could have classes there. So they were kind of asking what they could use this space for and how we envision utilizing it.
so whether or not they would charge a fee to their people, you don't know?
Correct. One of the things that they asked us is if the town museum had its own 501c3, and if we were open to putting the museum or putting up a 501c3 for the historic commission, something of that nature, so that if they get donations, they can accept it in under that. So there's a lot of details to discuss out. I think it's just kind of up or down on if this is something the council wants to explore further.
If they're talking about a 501c3, that's charitable. So
Government can't be
just on the
charitable.
face of it, it tells me that they're not-for-profit.
Correct. Yeah, they're not, these women are just, they're looking to get more art out here on this side of, the county, to get more people in to see all forms of art. So,
I mean, I'm open to hearing what they want to present so I can better understand what they're looking at and see if that's a fit for our museum, or if maybe we can help them find a different avenue. I'm open to that.
okay.
I just wanted to make note from our discussion last week that I really liked Councilwoman Ramirez's idea about HOAs being allowed to, or have the opportunity, I don't want to say allowed, but have the opportunity to rent the building at no cost with the security deposit during the week. I think I really like that. So whether or not this program is implemented within the museum, I just want it noted that I did like that suggestion. So thank you.
Did anybody have any other feedback on the pricing?
Go ahead.
I was gonna, outside of what we discussed about flipping it.
Right.
And then making HOAs and our Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts like a nonprofit, I think that would be.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Flipping.
So businesses were being charged less, residents more, so flipping that,
That table there.
yeah,
So you would flip.
flip the cost, right?
Ah, okay.
And then allow the non-profit, the charity, in order, they can utilize the facility.
Would you do it the same as the HOAs, once a month, Monday through Friday for the nonprofits?
I think so.
If those rates are pretty amenable, if council's okay with it, I would like to proceed forward with finalizing an agreement draft, getting that together, working with our town attorney on an agreement and proceeding forward.
I guess we'll solicit feedback on the fees, and if it becomes a deterrent for using the space, we can revisit the appropriate, okay.
Absolutely. I don't think we're gonna 100% know that the fees are either way too low or way too high until we start putting it out there. And we'll hear quick. People will let us know that we're out of our mind, or wow, this is cheap.
Well, I mean, in developing it, there was some benchmarking, wasn't there?
Yes.
No? Okay. So-
And again, we're not looking to per se, make a buck on the space. We're looking to get people in there, get them around our historic artifacts again, our stories, have the space open, utilized.
I certainly think the security deposit is important. I feel bad because I am both involved in my HOA and in a community group like Girl Scouts. So I want to make that known that, I don't want my opinion to be seen biased, but I do appreciate that we are taking into account that these organizations, they don't have a lot of money. So I do appreciate that. And I think that that's very reasonable that once a month we can offer this, but a security deposit would be necessary. I don't know how council feels about it being refundable or what all those things are, how that would work or.
Yes.
Okay.
So Roberto and I had kind of toyed around with some different ideas, but absolutely it would be a security deposit to ensure that the space is not damaged. If something were to be damaged, then in the agreement, it would list out how much of the deposit we would keep. If it's all of it, half of it, we would have that in there. Upon a walkthrough with maintenance or one of the staff members here, if everything checked off good, then, it would be fully refundable within a certain amount of time of renting. So
I think that's really reasonable, and I know that there are residents in my neighborhood who could not afford the, $200 for the full day on top of party expenses. So I do appreciate that you guys are thinking of flipping it and making it affordable for families. I think that's really nice, especially in times like these. So those are my opinions. Thanks.
I see a hand up over here.
Oh, I did have a hand up. I think that's a great idea, flipping it. Yeah. Let's take care of our residents. So, and maybe I'm getting out in front of myself a little bit here, relative to how this is going to be managed. Have we thought about that? Who's going to manage it? How's it going to be managed? Is it going to be something done where you select on a website or you call in? Who's going to track it? Is it first come, first serve? And how perhaps are we going to allow someone to lock the place up over a certain period of time, which would preclude others from using it? So those are the types of functional questions that I have.
do you want me to go ahead?
Go
through
right
it?
ahead.
Okay. So currently how we're proposing it's going to play out is everything will be listed on the town website. There will be an application that you fill out and you apply for. Based on what category you fall in, you have to submit your necessary paperwork to include your insurance, et cetera. Then the main point of contact on that is going to be our event coordinator, Rachel. So she will keep the master schedule of the building, and she will make sure that she works with myself and our maintenance coordinator to whether it needs to be set up and they've paid additional setup fees, or we need to do a walkthrough between probably the three of us. We'll also probably loop Alexandra in on it. We're going to try, our in-house staffing to see that this gets facilitated the right way and handled, but we will have the master schedule on there. We are going to put in place some kind of security catches, if you will, on somebody not being able to come in and book it every single weekend from today to the end of August. So whether that be you can only book it 1 month in advance. The Prince William County Library does a similar scenario where bookings happen at a certain time a month. You can only book so many days in advance. So we might try that method at first, just see where our feedback is. We will send everything out to our HOAs. We will probably go ahead and let them know, send out a personalized email with the application, let them know the space is available, what they, would be able to do with Monday through Friday, once a month, have that. If they want to go ahead and get on the calendar, if, council's okay with it, we would be okay with accepting the HOAs because they're only booking once a month. Those are pretty standard meetings, much like ours, first Monday, they need to have that consistency. So we would understand that with our HOAs. So we'd go through those processes. Security deposit, of course, would be submitted ahead of time. We will have a lock pad on the door so that they're issued a PIN number that is unique to them. It expires after the end of their time there. We'll coordinate appropriately with the police department to do any kind of checks or safety checks, if it's an event that goes into the hours of like 9 o'clock, not that that's super late, but it's dark, we'll have our officers check it out. Those are kind of just right off the cuff items that we're thinking through. The space will be cleaned appropriately, the bathroom cleaned appropriately, stocked appropriately. The space will be checked out and set up by, staff that's included in the fee there. So we'll make sure that everything's set. We also, one other side note real quick, we'll make sure to track this in timesheets as we do our logs, so we do separate out the different tasks. And so that is something that I'll have each of the staff members that works on it track it so that we can report back when it comes to budget season if there's a need for additional personnel hours.
Good. No, that's good.
When do you anticipate getting the occupancy stuff?
I am desperately trying to contact the county to see what they can do to help us. I have spent about 2 hours today searching our old files on our server and nothing. So I can find occupancy permits, they just don't have occupancy loads listed. So we need that load listed.
Is that something our friend at the county can help?
If the building official doesn't call me back tomorrow, I'll reach out to other avenues, but I'm trying to give Mr. Mays the chance to just get back to my voicemail.
And what folks have to be part of that? I guess that's the question. And if you're not getting a return call, if you don't get a return call, perhaps that individual can help us and bring the right people to the table.
Absolutely. I have no doubt that if I get that return call, which probably will happen here shortly, we'll have a whole action plan from that phone call of here's who you need to contact, here's the crew that's going to come out and do it. What I don't know what's going to happen is if they're going to make me go through the JOE program or the TLO program, which is a certain amount of applying, showing plans, so forth and so on. So that's the hiccup I have, because then that's a different kind of funding and drawing up of plans and permitting and.
I have some thoughts on that. I'll share with you later.
Perfect.
Okay.
So you got the information you need?
Yes, I do believe so.
Okay, I guess we'll move on then. Council member time. Start off with Vice Mayor Pater.
Yes, thank you. All right, I'll keep it short and sweet. So it is June, which means it's Pride Month, so happy Pride. I would like to just say thank you always to our staff and our police department. I appreciate you very, very much. I am looking forward to the 15th. I will be in attendance this year, so I'm very excited. And then our business roundtable will be at the end of the month, around the 27th of June, 8 o'clock at the hotel. So I look forward to seeing everybody there as well. What time? It'll be 8 o'clock.
In the morning?
In the morning.
In the morning. Okay, Councilmember Bayonne?
No comments.
Passanello?
I think he wants to go home. Again, welcome, Olan, and thank you for joining us. Yesterday was National Cancer Survivors Day. I guess you're, all right. And I just want to shout out to all those folks that have been through it and been, even if you're just diagnosed, you're a survivor. So just want to make a shout out to everybody that are dealing with the issues. And it was very interesting. I was able to see that a certain individual, his name is Liam Hendrick. I don't know if anybody follows baseball, maybe Olan does, of the Chicago White Sox. He's a young man who's a pitcher, and he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and he went through a real treatment course of months and months of going through chemo and other drugs, and he is now back in baseball, and he's in full remission. So I wanted to say a shout out, even though he probably can't hear us here. It was just an impressive story, a great young man, and who's involved in now spreading awareness. So, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Snyder?
A couple things. One, I apologize for texting. I got 2 kids and other folks trying to get a hold of me. I know you guys talked about this already with the ARB members, but we are losing 2 folks, Stacy Caron and Susie. You've put in your request for plaques, but Susie said she doesn't want to be recognized.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to publicly recognize her now. Thank you, Susie.
Well, she'll get recognized, she just won't get a plaque.
Okay. So I do appreciate folks' time. Sorry to see them go. Stacy had a lot of contributions the last couple of meetings. I'm like, now? So anyway, thank you for their service, and I said June will be their last meeting with the committee. I will be in and out most of this summer, but I will try to give feedback as I am able on agenda items. Also, Chief, I don't know if you talked to Officer Cobbage today. He and Officer Edwards helped me with an issue last night in Green Hill. Appreciate their professionalism, their joint work together to address that issue. So having that relationship with the town police department and the county police department worked out well. And I followed the rules. I called dispatch. I did not call directly the PD. So
Got to keep that CAD report correct, my friend.
So thank you very much.
Okay. Councilmember Ramirez.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so I want to start off with saying that we have a primary coming up June 20th. You go to your local election polling place. You don't have to identify as a party. You just have to choose what party to vote for. So please go out, have your voices heard as residents of this community. And I already said the thing about Officer Chan. Deeply appreciate it, love it. Loved seeing those stickers at school. That was awesome. Water balloon fight, please, seriously, I want everyone to come and be a lot of fun.
Wear your goggles.
I know it's going to happen, so we're going to have a lot of fun. So I hope to see everyone there, and that's it.
Okay. Councilmember Leek?
No comment, thank you.
Okay, that leaves me. I would like to thank everybody who talked to me on Sunday. I think the Talk with the Mayor program is a little bit more successful than the Walk with the Mayor program. Speaking of the Walk with the Mayor program, I do have a personal conflict, so this Saturday will not happen. Other than that, welcome aboard, Alon, and that's all I have to say.
Did you have a choice?
Yes. I chose you.
Good answer.
That is the right answer.
So on that note,
Move to adjourn.
A second.
motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned.